Welcome, everyone. This is Around the World in 80 Fabrics. My name is Carol Dunham, and I just want to give you a quick and exciting glimpse into an extraordinary journey that we are planning for next year. And I hope you might want to consider joining us. We will be going to Ladakh September 20th to 28th and explore the ecology, spirit, and textiles of Ladakh. So, who are we? Around the World in 80 Fabrics. We are a nonprofit educational foundation, and we're very passionate about the biodiversity and the ecology of textiles. We want to really try to help to make those connections with our deep natural history and heritage of understanding textiles as we look to the future of what we could wear in the future. So you see that picture below is myself with marine biologist, Dr. Tierney Tees, and we founded this together, and we work with textile expert Leslie Robertson. How did it all begin? Well, Tierney, as a marine biologist, was just so tired of seeing the microplastics in all of her work sites in the ocean. And of course, as many of you may know, most of those come from fabrics and textiles. So, as a nonprofit fostering connections between plastic-free fabrics and planetary health, because very few people realize that over 60%, closer to 70% of all clothing manufactured today is made from plastic-based fabrics. So we really want to celebrate the wisdom of cultural traditions, which is what this trip will be about. And we also like to help to educate about cutting edge innovations in recycling and biofabrication and the wealth of biodiverse alternatives to plastics that are possible on this planet. And we believe through weaving people together and creating connections, we can create a flourishing and biodiverse future world that is not based on the clothing of petroleum. So these are some of our journeys that we'll have next year, and we encourage you to consider joining us. Tierney and I met through National Geographic. We're both National Geographic explorers. We lead trips for National Geographic all around the world, and we would love to share our passion with you. We have 2 trips to Mongolia next year. I've spent over 20 years up there on the steppes. The first one is in my homeland of the Hungai Mountains in central Mongolia. This is a great one for any of you, if anyone has issues or problems with altitude and are passionate particularly about felting and especially about yaks. We will be in one of the most densely populated yak populations amongst yak herders living in yurts. And it will be a very magnificent and very special trip. And I look forward to sharing that with you. Our next trip will be September 2nd to 12th, and that will be in the Altai Mountains with the Kazakhs and the Kazakh felters and embroiderers, as well as the eagle hunters, really exploring not only the extraordinary felt making traditions, but also that unique relationship of humans with eagles that the Kazakhs have. Really quite special. I was just there last month. But today we're going to talk about Ladakh, and I'll have some other trips we'll talk about to Bhutan and Assam in the future. So if you want to take a picture of this slide, we will be having Bhutan, Weaving Spirit with the Non-Human Worlds. That will be on November 25th. Or if you're not able to make it, do write us and I can send you the link. We'll also have one in Assam, People and Ecologies, the Wild Silk, and that will be on December 15th. And I also have, we have a quick little slideshow that talks all about all of our trips if if you're interested in that. So those are some of the different times we'll be having those. Usually they're Sunday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. So that'll be Bhutan on November 24th and Assam on Sunday, December 15th. So we love to create biophilic adventures. What the heck does that mean? What is biophilia and what would be a biophilic adventure? Well, simply Biophilia means the human's innate tendency to connect with nature and other life forms. The word literally means love of life. And that is something that Tierney and Leslie and I share very passionately. And we hope that through our journeys, you will have a much deeper and more intimate relationship with the very things that you clothe and you put on your intimate body and on your skin. So, put on your seat belts. There's a rough road ahead. Fasten your bra straps. Remove your dentures, ladies. Here we go. This is an image, these are images from Olivier Foulme. He's a very famous, extraordinary French photographer that were taken in Ladakh. But I can make you rest at ease and assured that we will not be going on such wild landscapes. But you can see that we will be going on a great adventure in a place of profound beauty. Here we see the prayer flags of the five different elements, and you can see some of the mountains. But I want you to just take a moment and breathe. I want you to relax and breathe and take in that vast blue sky and those snow-capped mountains. The vastness and the space is something extraordinarily unique to Ladakh. Ladakh is almost, we could consider it part of the high plateau. It is up in Tibet. It once was part of Tibet, but it is now in India. But it is its raw, wild, natural beauty, and we will see that this is the ecosystems from which the extraordinary textiles of Ladakh arise. So this is what I really want to share is the real experience to really understand where a textile comes from and the biodiversity and the natural raw wild landscape from which it comes. We'll also, of course, be exploring here. We can see some of the architecture. What was the human architectural response to these vast landscapes and how people chose to live and the spirit of their architecture? And we will see that as well as the spirit of the textiles and the shapes and the designs as we look deeper, as we go in to explore the culture and the peoples who reside in this biodiversity and are a part of it, and as well as their textiles and these extraordinary, dramatic landscapes that will be with you in your dream world for the rest of your life if you ever have the great opportunity to go to Ladakh. Um, a medical anthropologist by training. Some people say I'm the Ruth Westheimer of the Himalayas. I've spent over 40 years gossiping with women about love, men, and sex with a great passion, particularly for medicinal herbs and plants. You can see up in the left, that's a picture of me up in Ladakh. Oh my goodness, I think over 30 years ago, learning about the great medicinal traditions of Ladakh. You can also see in the middle on the second picture from on the right is I'm with a dear friend, Professor Kim Gutzchow of Wesleyan. And we were up with that's in Zanskar with the Anis, where she was exploring and looking at nuns, witches, and oracles. So where is Ladakh? I want you to see that little tiny red up there in the far left. It's way in the furthest northern little corner there. And you can see in the right-hand corner, when we look more closely, you'll see a lot of disputed territory because it literally is right up next to Tibet, which is now occupied by China. And there is still disagreements about this border area. So it's a frontier area. And the Indian Army is in that region because of the issues of where those borders are. This was the last time I was in Ladakh. I was on the Zanskar River on a fabulous journey with dear friends, but we will not be going down the Zanskar River on this trip. And this is the Chadar River, which is where on my very first trip I ever took to this region, where I joined Kim Goods Chow, my husband, and Canadian Olympian John O'Leneen, wonderful books on walking if you ever want to look him up. And we had an extraordinary adventure joining our Zanskari compadres, walking down the frozen highway at that time. It was an extraordinary adventure, a lot of stories to tell. But the good news is you won't have to put on your warm boots or wade through the freezing cold waters on this trip because we're not going down the Chadar. But I do have some wonderful stories to tell from some of those extraordinary adventures. One of the journeys I took in between those two river trips was a winter expedition. And I can tell you, actually, I love Ladakh in the winter. I was working on a film project called Living Prayer, and I was asked to go and be that pesky person having to knock on great yogi and hermits. Doorways to see if we could interview them about their practice of tumo, the creation of inner heat. It's a practice I've practiced myself. That is my teacher, Dilbo Kensei Rinpoche, and then my current teacher, his grandson, Rabjam Rinpoche, both of them great practitioners of this Tumo practice. But I have good news. We're traveling in September. We won't need any Tumo or practice of inner heat, but we can tell stories about yogis. This is our itinerary for what we will be exploring. We will start in Delhi, where our team will be there to meet you at the airport and take you to the comfortable places. We have a few different options of where you might be able to stay according to what you most like. I personally really love the Haveli Hauz Khas. It's in the Hauz Khas region there. And after a good night's rest, we'll get up in the morning and we'll take one of the most dramatic flights on this planet over the Indian Himalayas, a sea of Himalayas. If you are a mountainphile like myself, you will love and really be able to appreciate in our time of climate change these important holders of water in the vast seas of the Himalayas before we land. It really is truly awe-inspiring flight. We will land in Leh, and the Indus River camp will be our base camp for days 2, 5, and 7 of our journey. Now, it's a very simple but wonderful place where we can appreciate the magnificent views and be immersed. Now, remember, we're going to be at 11,000 feet. So this trip is not for any one of you who may worry or be concerned about altitude. We do recommend the taking of Diamox, starting it when you're in Delhi, and we can talk more about that. But this is where we will be staying for a large portion of our short but very rich and intense experience in Ladakh. We will have optional meditation and yoga as well to keep our bodies and minds and spirits in harmony and in balance according to traditional beliefs and theories about mind, body, and spirit called Soarikpa. And so on day 3, we will wake up and we will head off to Alchi Monastery. If any of you have ever been in anywhere in Mongolia, Tibet, Nepal, Bhutan, the Himalayas, Alchi Monastery is one of the finest, greatest examples of Himalayan art on this planet. And as you can see now, where the links go to textiles, we really start to see how this was a crossroads, but where Kashmir, Central Asia, India met with Tibetan cultures. And we can see that in the rich diversity of textiles, which are painted on the tops of the walls of the Alchi Monastery from roughly the 10th century. Even we have the Buddha Maitreya of the future, and you look at the ornate of his clothing that we see. We can see amongst the traders how important the clothing and textiles were and the heritage of it in this region. After Alchi, we'll go and explore the Tar village for a deeper immersion into how the people of Ladakh were going to meet with villagers and their organic movement of what they grow and how they live and survive and eat. On day 4, again, after optional meditation and yoga in the morning, Our emphasis and focus of this day will be on finding balance. We'll be exploring issues of water and climate change, adaptation. We'll be looking at healing herbs. We'll be meeting with nuns, and we'll be exploring traditional medicine as well as the heritage music of Ladakh. Um, I have a very good friend I met. Amchi Tenzin Palmo. She's an extraordinary woman. And she has actually, when we look at how what is the relevance of Tibetan Vajrayana Buddhist monasticism today? She has helped where they've trained the women to become local healthcare workers. We will also, and she all herself is a traditional, it's called Soa Rigpa. She's known as an Amshi, a traditional healer. And we're going to learn a lot about the herbs because a lot of these herbs are the same herbs that are used in natural dyes. We will also meet with a dear old friend of mine, Amchi Smenla, who has been very involved, especially in working at the sustainability issues of medicinal plants. And we'll learn about the trade routes and where all of these different traditional medicine and herbs came from as we learn about healing and harmony and balance and the plants that were used and are continued to be used in these healing traditions. We'll learn a lot about the biodiversity of the plant life and the flora and the fauna of Ladakh. This is sea buckthorn, and it's a wonderful source of vitamin C, and hopefully we'll all be enjoying some of that juices. We'll also be we'll be meeting with some extraordinary young Ladakhi committed, dedicated conservationists and ecologists. And we're going to learn a lot more about the wildlife of Ladakh, from the blue sheep, from the red fox to the snow leopard and the lynx. And as you all may realize, these storehouses, there are many glaciers in Ladakh, and yet the glaciers are melting with climate change. And yet the people of Ladakh have found some very innovative and creative ways to respond. We're going to meet with some of those extraordinary innovators, and we will learn about some of the ice stupas they make so that they can store the water and so it can melt and feed the fields in the summertime. As now, with the melting of the glaciers, there's less and less water. And how do we store it? On day 5, we are going to go into, it'll be an extraordinary day of contrast. We will start our morning with the divine feminine, with Lamos. Lamo is a Ladakhi term, almost like shamaness, but it means like a female divine, and it is embodied in women. This is the Sibu Lamo way below. She is retired. Many of them manifest the deity Palden Lamo, who is the great protector spirit of Tibet. So we will be able to ask questions to the very earth itself and to the protectors of the earth as we look and learn about conservation and environmental issues in Ladakh, which is something that I don't know if any of you have ever read any Helena Norbu Lodge. I strongly recommend it, Ancient Futures, looking at how do we go forward and yet bring some of our wisdom and the heritage and traditions of the past. And Ladakh cares very much deeply about that. We are going to meet with Norbu and Jigmet Wangmo, who are at the very forefront of couture in Ladakh, who are looking at how can they take their traditional designs and bring them into contemporary and modern living. We'll be exploring the extraordinary capital of Leh. You can see up there the Royal Palace. And we'll also go to visit the Looms of Ladakh. It's a women's cooperative of over 200 Changpa women. Changpa are the women of the Changtang, traditionally the nomadic herders who take care of the herds of vast animals and sheep. And so they have hand-woven and naturally dyed. And look at these extraordinarily wonderful contemporary designs they are making from the natural resources they're finding in their own homeland, not using any petroleum. If we're lucky, we'll be able to meet with the extraordinary Manisha Ahmed. She's a textile anthropologist and co-founder of the Ladakh Arts and Multicultural Outreach Trust. And she has single-handedly done enormous amounts in the preservation of textiles, and we will learn so much from her. Nambu and Spiruks, we're going to learn a lot about a lot of the traditional textiles of Ladakh. And we'll get to see and feel them as well. I mean, and the lusciousness and where do they fit into our modern vocabulary of traditional textiles. But truly, at the very, very heart of our entire experience is an amazingly wonderful, powerful couple of immense heart. And that is Catherine Ali and Sering Angtak, and of We Are Cal. And I strongly urge you, if you want to take a picture of this slide and you want to look up We Are Cal, look up their website, because they really, in a sense, exemplify the weaving of the traditional and the contemporary in very dynamic and powerful ways. As Catherine says, we're farmers, we're spinners, we're weavers, we're nomads, we're designers, knitters, and culture lovers. And our goal is to create meaningful products in harmony with nature and humanity. The evolution of raw materials into a final product is what we are excited about. We love the hand making. Therefore, all of our fabric is hand spun and hand woven. So Catherine is a Swiss designer who fell in love with Sering Angtak, who is a Changpa from the Changtang. And we're so lucky to have them as our guests as they share their world and their perspectives on Ladakh with us. And so we will also have a profound opportunity to be dying with them, and we will be able to work with their extraordinary staff. We are going to meet and know each of these extraordinary women ourselves personally. I don't know about you. I love profound landscapes and wild spaces, but I also really, for me, I really travel for that connection of biophilia because we humans are a part of that also with other humans. And we will have the great opportunity not only to meet, but to learn from We Are Cal staff as we will learn about how to spin wool, how to weave wool, how to dye wool, all in workshops with Tsering Angtak and Catherine at their beautiful center in Ladakh. So we will then take to the road and go up to the Changtang, up to where Tsering Angtak's ancestors are from, and we will be hosted. We will be camping out. So for a little bit of roughness to really experience genuinely, truly, and authentically nomadic life up on the Changtang, we will go be amongst village herders of the village of Karnak. And there on the Changtang are over 67,000 Changtangi sheep. It's an indigenous breed of sheep. And we're going to learn a lot more about the sensitive ecology of the Changtang as it is today. People believe there have been shepherds, nomads. We have evidence for over 4,000 years. My good friend, archaeologist Mark Aldendorfer, thinks that people have been herding sheep on this very land. And so we are going to learn not only, again, to be doing more spinning and learning about the care and of the sheep and the animals. Here you can see even some of the yak wool tents that some of the herders live in as we really learn about their life. And there's over 1.5 million Changtangi goats. They produce over 30,000 kilos of fibers, and that's about 4 ounces of fiber per goat. And that is at a very fine, at 12 to 14 microns. Many people will argue that the Changtangi cashmere goats produce the most finest cashmere in all of the world. So it takes at least 4 to 8 goats of their wool to create one sweater. So we will learn a lot about these goats, the complexities, because goats tend to pluck, sheep tend to graze. So as there has been a rising of the number of sheep, that impact on the subtle grasses. What we'll find is we'll also learn about the evolution, about these grasses that have learned to grow at such high altitudes. So it's not only humans that have learned to adapt to the high altitude. We'll learn about how the Ladakis are related to the Denisovans, so they have a different hemoglobin, so they're more adapted to a high altitude, as well as the animals and also the grasses themselves. We'll have a real great opportunities to bond with the animals and their herds, as well as learn about how the harvesting and the caring for the animals. Now, so what is this cashmere? Cashmere, and where does it come from? We talk about Kashmir, and most people think of Kashmir as a place which is right next to Ladakh. And so that has evolved into our word we know of as Kashmir. But actually, in fact, all of those fibers that we think of when we think of a gorgeous cashmere shawl and these traditional styles that I'm showing you here all come from the fibers of the Changtangi goat, the Changra, as they're known, that we will be meeting and seeing in our journeys and adventures. And as many of you who know me know, I'm actually really just a huge yak fan. And I think they're the most climate resistant of all animals. And I hope that we will have some influence and be able to talk with some herders. We're also looking at trying to make some links with herders. They have an incredible society. They're very well organized there. But for making ensuring that the herders get the best dollar for their herding animals. They don't need to necessarily have as much. They're able to make more from them. And there's all sorts of research being done on how we can make the yak fiber micron as fine as the cashmere. So stay tuned, but we will learn an enormous amount and have opportunities to learn to weave with our hosts up in the Changtang. So I talk about this. We call this trip of spirit and ecology and textiles. So it's the spirit of the ecology and its place. And I hope that it's not only the spirit of place, but the spirit of the Ladakhi people themselves that you will touch you and that will connect with in a very profound and powerful way. The Ladakhi are very, very lovely, beautiful people. They're very devout Buddhists. Hopefully, we will learn a little more about their inner worlds through optional practices of meditation for any of those who would like that, so they can carry back some of that peace and internal harmony within themselves. Remember, they are in a conflict zone up there. It's complex. It's a very safe place, but they are there between China and India, and so they have had to learn how to use their Buddhist skills, and now very exciting because they have become their own independent territory and they're working for more independence in their rights. But we'll explore also their sacred inner spaces of their architecture that we saw in the very beginning. And we will explore and learn more about the spirit of them, as well as learning about from simple farm women themselves and from weavers about the rich, extraordinary textiles and heritage. And hopefully we'll have a few smiles and laugh. This is me with Diskit, a wonderful old Ani friend. These are the last photo. She offered me flowers before I left, and I hope, and I've been eager to get back since. On our very last day, we will also go to visit Tikse Monastery. Many people say it's like a little Potala. If any of you have ever been to Lhasa or ever wanted to go to Lhasa, what the beauty is this is going into a Tibetan cultural zone without the complexities of Chinese rule. So we will explore the gorgeous monastery of Tikse with the huge and awe-inspiring Buddha Maitreya, is the Buddha of the future. Um, and I hope that it will be inspiring to you. Before the next day, we will head back. We'll fly back over those extraordinary Himalayas and we will fly home, or for some of us, fly direct home. For others, we'll have a day to explore the Red Fort or go to the Chandni Chowk and we'll explore some of the interesting recyclers or go to some of the amazing top and amazing textile shops because, as any of you know, India is really one of the great homelands, of greatest homelands for hand woven and for extraordinary cottons and silks. And if any of you would like to do an add-on to Rajasthan for further textile exploration, please write or contact us. So some of the trip highlights I hope I have tried to share with you, from a meeting female shamanesses, channeling local spirits. We'll meet with Ladakhi artisans. We will have hands-on workshops ourselves in natural dyeing, weaving, and spinning. We will meet with great musicians. We will meet with environmental activists. We'll meet with nun healers and traditional healers. And we'll be up with sheeps and goats and yaks in a vast space under the sky. So if any of that is interesting to you, please do consider joining us in this extraordinary adventure. And I think that our price is very reasonable. It's 5,500. It's a single supplement, and as I say, payment can be made via our PayPal or on our website. If you go to Around the World in 80fabrics.com, and please note Ladakh, September 2025. I'm not going to go into all of the different things that we recommend that you bring on your trip. In terms of packing, we have wonderful uh, forms we'll pass out for that. But I also will say we are going to be giving on November 25th, I'll be giving a little talk on weaving spirit with non-human worlds, pilgrimage to Bhutan. And the great news is it looks like the price has just gone down in half. So more on that soon. This is more of our luxury trip. So if Ladakh sounded a little too wild and rugged around the edges, a little too wild and woolly for you, I strongly recommend you look at and explore this trip to Bhutan. I've been leading National Geographic trips in Bhutan for the last 25 years. I'll be there for all of spring for the next 3 months. And I would love nothing more than to share my good friends, such as Karma Chudden, who is really a national living treasure of Bhutan, especially in terms of natural dyes, and a great weaver. Really like the Guatemala of Asia, Bhutan, there really is no place with such fine embroidery in all of Asia that you will find. And then in December 15th, we'll be talking about Assam, which is a place many of you may have been to India, but I don't know many of you who may have been up to Assam and you're missing something. It's an extraordinary ecology, and we will not only be exploring the wild silk of the Brahmaputra from the Muga and the Erie, with the Rabba peoples of the lower Ghat forests, where there are elephants, and we'll see tigers and rhinos and elephants in the Kaziranga, and we'll go down a boat down the Grand Brahmaputra. But we will be able, in a biophilic way, to get to know and explore the wild silks. So, if you're interested, I hope you'll come and join us. And if you have any questions, please contact us. And we urge you to try to sign up before the end of the year because the trips are filling up fast. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you out on the trail. And keep weaving, and let's work together to take care of this beautiful planet we call home. Okay, take care and goodbye.